right, so I want to take a moment to put together a couple of hopefully short videos that just demonstrate our basic framework for shaping new behaviors and then creating reliability in those behaviors. So as a training company, though we do obviously place a bunch of focus in building typical obedience behaviors, a bigger portion of our focus goes into teaching clients how we shape desired behaviors and create reliability in those behaviors, and then how we discourage behaviors that we could do without. So though through these videos we'll be focusing on a couple of specific behaviors, they're meant to demonstrate overarching fundamentals that could be applied to any new behavior that you'd like to teach your dog, whether it's fun tricks or something that will add a little bit more utility in your basic training for being able to just coexist in a nice frustration-free lifestyle with your dog. So I have Bubba here. He's in for a short board and train. And so with any new dog that we're working through, we want to first make sure that we have a strong base foundation of behaviors and communication systems, as well as some fine-tuned tools that then we can use down the line to help work through some problem areas. So with Bubba, we're going to demonstrate first how we shape a new behavior, and then I'll use a separate video to talk about how we then create reliability in those behaviors. So in the beginning, when we're talking about shaping behaviors, we first need to identify what the finished behavior is that we'd like to build. So I'm going to start very simply, and we're going to first explore just the down position. So fairly simple, but actually I find with a lot of small breed dogs that this can be quite challenging. I find that a lot of smaller breed dogs can have a tendency to dislike that position, whether it feels vulnerable for them or it's just more difficult to shape because they're already so close to the ground. It's hard to say. But Bubba does already know this behavior, but I'm going to kind of walk through the steps that we used to help build and strengthen that. So first, we want that down position. We want to be a little specific about what our finished product is going to look like. I assume most owners don't want to teach their dog just a down position where they have to be down here working their dog every time they ask for the position. But Bubba, that's cool. But we ultimately want to be able to have that down position from a stand position with a little distance from our dog and be able to say down and have them drop into that position. If we want to get really advanced in that, we could do it at a distance, but that's kind of a whole separate skill set that we won't cover in these videos. But my base foundation that I want to build for him is that Bubba will lie down while I am standing in his vicinity, and hold that position until I give him a release cue. So that's the finished product I want to build. The next question I need to ask myself is, what is the smallest I need to break down the steps of building that behavior in order to create success for him, while also getting as close to my finished product as possible. So we'll continually ask this as we're going through this process. But what I mean by that is, for a dog who's never learned the down position, if I just looked at Bubba right now and said down, he probably wouldn't understand what was being asked, so I don't have a reasonable expectation that he'll be able to do it. So we tend to shape behaviors in our program with food for the most part. Not every dog has strong food motivation, but for the ones that do, this is always our starting point. So Bubba has nice food drive, so I'm going to show you what that first step using food to help teach him what that position looks like will look like. So we're going to use something called luring. And basically what that means is I'm going to use food to guide the dog into the position that I'd like. So first, this requires that my dog is able to follow food like this. I'm not going to go deeply into the steps we would use to start shaping a dog's ability to lure in this video, but we may be able to make something like that in the future. But basically you can see that he's pretty comfortable following a piece of food in my hand when I have the food in an open hand with the treat tucked under my thumb. So I know that this way I can manipulate his body in order to start showing him what the behavior looks like. So from there, I'm just going to take my treat. I like to teach the down position from a stand. It's not a requirement, but there are some benefits to that. So with Bubba, I'm going to take that treat and just help him fold into a down. Go. I'm going to use my release word right from the get-go that lets him know when he's allowed to get back out of that position. But we'll talk more about that when we're talking about building reliability in that behavior. But even at the beginning, I'm going to start building that habit of you get up after I say go. So with Bubba, we'll show another rep like that. So now that I've got him luring into that position, yes, nicely, without requiring much assistance, he's able to just kind of follow that treat and fold into a down. I can then start pairing it with my verbal cue. So now that I know he can complete the behavior, I'm going to start saying down and then guiding him into position. So he's going to start creating a chain of understanding from the word down happens, the treat pops out and lures him into position, the treat is then released and he's able to get that reward. So we want to start sequencing that so that he doesn't only do it for the treat, and we'll start doing it for the reward with the reasonable expectation that the treat will come after. So Bubba, I'll get him reset into a stand, and we'll say Bubba down, and then I guide, yes. And yes for us is a terminal marker, so he's previously learned that that means that he can leave position to get the treat. All right, Bubba down, yes. And you'll notice I say down, then I guide, then I release him to the food. Once we have that, we can start working on just saying the word down and seeing if he'll offer the position on his own. It's going to look like it's going faster with him because this is something we've worked on before. For a dog that's brand new to this though, we may need to do a few more reps with the lure before we can start asking for the down without help. So for him, you can see he's starting to offer it. That's because he has started already patterning that down is what he's being rewarded for in this session. Let's go. We'll try that again. Bubba down. Good. Good. Yes. Good boy. So from there, you may find with your dog that you need a little bit more of an intermediary where you say down and then pop in with a little bit of help, make him wait for the treat, and then yes. But with Bubba, we're kind of skipping that step since it is a little bit further along in his education. From there, I can start hitting a point where you'll notice I'm not holding any food. So this way we can start communicating to him that the treat will come, but the behavior isn't only asked when I have a treat in hand. So that's where a lot of people get stuck. We'll hear frequently clients saying, hey, my dog only listens when I have a treat. But we want to start to build as a dog believing that a reward may happen regardless of whether they see it in the picture or not. Often people will get kind of stuck in what I'll call the like show me the money effect. So basically the dog won't comply with whatever the cue was unless unless the treat is in the picture, because they don't believe that they'll be rewarded for the behavior, or they believe that's part of the sequence required for them to have that expectation of doing the behavior. So with Bubba, we'll start where we've got no treats and we'll start playing with just having him wait for that reward. Bubba down. Good. And then his behavior triggers me to produce the reward. Good. And that was a little mishandling on my part. Down. Good. Ideally, he'll hold that position until I give it a terminal marker, an alternative cue, or a release word. So a release word would be something like go, go. And that just means he's allowed to break position and do whatever he wants. So from there, really we're just starting to then do our typical testing of behaviors, which is basically making it a little more challenging each time so that you can have this behavior in more than just a quiet room in your home. So starting to practice this outside, starting to practice this where you're moving and creating some distance. Maybe you're bouncing a tennis ball, seeing if your dog can hold it. But basically those are some ways that with just our food reward, we can start playing around with creating a little more commitment to the down, because we're changing the picture and getting the dog to kind of really process that down is, let's go, a position that will be rewarded in many environments with many different things happening. So Bubba down. So from here, we're starting to test a little with a little distance. I've got a little movement. Me just talking is a distraction as well, so that's a biggie. Good. Can reward him in position a few times. Nope. Good. And that face down is a good sign. It means he's really committing to the position. Good. Dropping the leash and picking it back up is a tough one for a lot of dogs. Good. Good. Fast motion. This will probably make him break, but good boy. Good. So you can play around with what challenges your dog without creating failure in the exercise. And it's okay if your dog breaks, you just help reset. This is kind of our baseline of showing the dog what we want, that it is in their best interest to do. They can earn rewards this way. It keeps it fun and exciting. And then we'll go from there and talk about how we create reliability for dogs that maybe aren't quite this focused in the moment, and how we can motivate our dogs to maintain these positions or engage in these positions even when there are things like competing motivators around. So often we'll find that food work is great, and it helps us to very efficiently teach our dogs known behaviors and create the building blocks that we need to create reliable behaviors in the long run. But there are often limitations to what the dog is willing to engage in based on what is around in the environment. So your dog may be willing to go into a downstay and hold that in your home, but they may not be able to complete and maintain that behavior if a squirrel is wandering by when you're out on a walk. So there are some tools that we can use to strengthen that piece of our training as well, which we'll go into in the next video.